So it's the last day of 2024, and I'll end it by really reflecting back on the year in kind of as much as I can do in a very summarized form, but also discuss the vision going forward for this channel, because the aim is to do more regular videos. There's a lot to say, there's a lot to think about, there's a lot to digest, especially when things are fast moving on the world stage, when you have atrocity after gaslighting narratives pushed by the media and politicians in order to simply put the wool over our eyes regarding the fact that a genocide is happening, for example. The fact that MAGA means Make America Great or America First. The fact that Keir Starmer in the UK is a fair-minded man who cares about international rules order. No, not if one of his geostrategic allies, the US and Israel, in defiance of international rules, he will turn a blind eye to them. And his rhetoric regarding liberal sensibilities goes out the window once Trump is in power, because these people are about supporting the structures of power. The establishment is now expressed in the form of Donald Trump right now. He is an expression of the establishment. He is an elite. And you'll see now how he will toe the line with regards to supporting Israel's wars. But this is bigger than this. This is bigger than looking at Israel. This is just looking at how, we live in a society where we've been taught equality is very important, how justice is very important. But when the rubber hits the ground, you find that these people all supporting those with the greatest power. They fear their careers being threatened. Let's just go about, let's talk about really what 2024 was. 2024 was a kind of a huge, transformative year for a lot of people. I mean, it followed end of 2023 with the start of the genocide on Palestinian people. And since then, we've seen these mainstream news organizations, which were already not trustworthy to begin with, compound the public with their fury of lies, this compounding effect of lies upon lies upon lies, with the BBC consistently framing the narrative so that Israel, whenever it commits an atrocity, it's always done in the name of some rational, logical process. But behind closed doors, when you hear these officials talk, they talk in the most genocidal manner possible. It's the gaslighting, and this kind of report that was co-authored by Owen Jones and a host of different journalists. They all talk about BBC, which of course is if not the world's, but at least Britain's #1 news source. It's consistently framing the situation in Gaza that is happening, that paints Israel as a mere, just fighting on behalf of some righteous liberal values, which is not the case. It's not the reality. It's, Zionism, and to actually understand this, requires understanding the Zionist rhetoric. Now, 2024 was also the rise of the kind of the so-called ally, but not really an ally. These people in the form of Dan Blizerian and Candace Owens. Now, people may not agree with what I'm about to say, but I will state my case, and if you have a disagreement, please put it to the comments. Dan Blizerian and his, he starts off with what it seems like good intentions in response to very obvious genocide. But when he gives you the explanations as to why this is happening, he talks about the Jews as a collective. He talks about Jews controlling the media, Jews doing this, Jews doing that. Meanwhile, he's ignoring the very Jewish people who are advocating for pro-Palestinian rights, the Jews who are anti-Zionists, and the real, this is why, yes, you can have people who somehow, are on the right side of history on certain topics, but when you see their greater, the greater worldview, you see that they're actually Nazi adjacent. Just look at Nick Fuentes. He was criticizing Israel and its bombardment of genocide, but he's also having a complaint with Elon Musk and Trump on H-1B visas. Of course, this man is a self-described. There's moments when he says he is a Nazi or Nazi adjacent, or has these white supremacist worldviews. So it's very important to be nuanced about this discussion. Also, so that we actually find, because let's take one step forward. In order to actually remedy the situation, we need to have an understanding of humanity as equal, irrespective of where you're born, irrespective of the luck, your circumstances, whether you're born into riches or not. That's the baseline level of morality. The moment you start pinpointing, instead of the people who have the power, rather than pointing at a whole group instead, which includes people who are also potentially in the same group as you, in the same camp as you, who are also born without no choice of their own, no volition of their own.
In the 1950s, Jacob Blaustein wrote a letter to Ben-Gurion. How dare you claim that you are the state of all the Jews? How dare you claim to represent the Jews? How dare you ask Jews in America to move to Israel? How dare you? And Ben-Gurion gave in. He said, we would never do such a thing. Of course, that was a lie. Zionism changes, and Zionists know it changes. I could show you in Zionist books. They say we change our story as needed. The leftist Zionists and the Ben-Gvir and Smotrich Zionists barely look at each other as the same religion or the same people. The common denominator that needs to be attacked, that can be attacked, is the basic Zionist idea. That, one, the basic Zionist idea is Israel is the nation state of all Jews, as opposed to the state of its citizens. Israel represents a safe place for the Jews. Worse yet, it's the only hope for safety for the Jews. Once these things are over, once these myths are busted, Zionists will become a lot more normal, because they will lose a lot of the motivation for whatever it is that they feel that they're doing. The religious Zionists will still be religious Zionists, but honestly, they could be marginalized, those guys, the settler guys.
So, any insight into how we can create this sort of discourse in the public domain?
Absolutely. As much as possible, we need to separate Israel from the Jewish people. The Jewish people are a group of people. They're all over the world. They share a common religion. The non-religious ones, you know what? Ask them what their Jewishness is. Whatever the bagels and lox, Woody Allen, doesn't make sense to me, but whatever it is, it is. Israel is a foreign country. It's the country of the Israelis. It has nothing to do with world Jewry. This identity thing, that has to go. The more you get closer to that, the more you get to include, the closer you get to including all human beings from the river to the sea in one peaceful state. The more you say, this country was given to the Jews by the UN, which it wasn't. It was given to the Jews. It was promised to the Jews by God, which also, according to Judaism, that's not the proper interpretation. It wasn't promised to Netanyahu, believe me.
Born into a religion, but they have a complete disagreement with the Zionist talking points. The fact that Netanyahu has placed himself as the modern day version of King David. It's all the Zionists are pushing out a self-serving narrative, and by these Dan Blizerians of the world who are pushing anti-Semitic talking points, they are walking into the trap of Zionism. Zionism requires anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism increases Zionism, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's the Ouroboros snake which eats onto its tail and is consistently devouring itself. Zionism and anti-Semitism are bedfellows, because they both see groups, ethnic groups, as essentialized, monopolistic identities. What do I mean by this? They believe that groups have intrinsic qualities, and these groups are acting together in unison like Borg-like minds, like these collective minds. But that's not what reality is. Reality does not express itself in that way. People are individuals, and some individuals will collectivize in whatever they believe is in their best interest. But the anti-Zionist Jews don't think in that way. You know, in the end, whether you're Jewish or Muslim or, these are all social constructs. And how you interpret constructs depends on your experience, your personality, how you've thought through this, how you've contemplated this. You wouldn't have the likes of Noam Chomsky, Norman Finkelstein. You wouldn't have movies like Israelism, which makes an accurate distinction between Judaism and Israel. And of course, if any of us were born Jewish, we wouldn't discard that identity as something that, we should be ashamed of, irrespective of whether you're Zionist or not, because it's got a history. It's interesting. It kind of provides some kind of context for community. Even though I believe community should be beyond a certain grouping, I believe in a worldwide, a respect for earth, respect for animals, respect for every other person, kind of community as part of this collective whole. But there's nothing to be ashamed of. What one should be ashamed of is if you believe in an ideology which actually believes that you are supreme, you reign supreme over other people who are also happen to be born into their own collective groups. It's ridiculous. It's just self-made gods, almost serving gods that people believe in, these ideologies, white supremacy or Jewish supremacy, or Zionist supremacy, which is essentially Jewish supremacy. This is why watch instead of watching clips by Dan Blizerian, I recommend watching the very well thought out arguments put forward by Rabbi Yaakov Shapiro, which I believe he should be shared more, because he the way he talks about Zionism and Judaism is that and the distinction between the two is as wide as a distinction between, let's say, Protestant Christianity and Catholic Christianity, and the two are very different. In fact, you had a literal genocide in Ireland, and Irish people were seen as subhuman by mere virtue of being Catholic, of a different ethnic tribe, combined with their religion. So it's very important to make a distinction between Zionism as a political ideology and Judaism, which is as a religion. Jews are our brothers and sisters, and we must not forget this. I say this as a secular, person who is just merely, I'm more spiritual than I'm religious. I don't really follow any religion. I believe in taking the best out of any religion, whether it's Judaism, Kabbalism, or Islam, the best, Christianity, Sikhism, of course, taking the best out of them and learning from them, and seeing the common unity between all of us. I believe there's a commonality here that we're not seeing, and I think we might see more of in the future, as perhaps these inter-religious kind of warfare, intercultural warfare, helps us come to the realization that we're not actually that much different. And I'm happy to see the rise of people like Bassem Youssef, Mehdi Hassan, these people from historically marginalized communities who come into the forefront, and they're, spitting facts, and they're just, just seeing that these people are like us. My goals for 2025, I don't have too much time left on the kind of space I've got on my phone right now, but 2025, more regularity with regards to videos, more even streaming. I'll be also doing things on the side with regards to my art career, which I've not really discussed on this channel. I also work for another kind of a human rights, humanitarian organization, which I may discuss in the future, maybe for my own community on Patreon. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't be like Dan Blizerian. Be like, be a humanitarian and understand you have allies amongst Jewish people. not amongst people who believe in the nationalistic, ethno-nationalist worldview, which makes no sense. And, despite the best efforts, even Zionists are seeing through this. This is why they constantly have to lie upon lie upon lie, and that can't be very good for you. Anyways, stay tuned, and I'll catch you very soon.